Okay, let's take a look at this one where we're asked to interpret an equivalent units report using the weighted average method. And again, the screen picture isn't the greatest, so let me read problem 4-11A to you. Cooperative Santa Maria of Southern Sonora State in Mexico makes a unique syrup using cane sugar and local herbs. The syrup is sold in small bottles and is prized as a flavoring for drinks for use in desserts. The bottles are sold for $13 each. Keep in mind this is the Mexican currency. It's the peso, and we're denoting it by the dollar sign. So it's sold for 13 pesos each. The first stage in the production process is carried out in the mixing department, which removes foreign matter from the raw materials and mixes them in the proper proportions in large vats. The company uses the weighted average method in its process costing system. Okay, there was this hastily prepared report that you see on the screen in the lighter shade in front of you for the mixing department. Now, the Cooperative Santa Maria has just been acquired by another company, and the management of the acquiring company wants some additional information about Santa Maria's operations. So we'll take a look at requirement 1. What were the equivalent units for the month? Okay, so we've got a schedule in front of us that says there was 6,000 units work in process at the beginning, 90% complete as to conversion costs, and 70% complete as to conversion, 90% materials complete. I read that incorrectly. And started into production was 100,000 units, so they have 106,000 units in total. Down below they say transferred to the next department was 92,000, and work in process 75% complete as to material, and conversion 50% was 14,000 units for 106,000. Well, let's see what we think the equivalent units were. We'll put together a quick schedule for that, because we're not sure that report was correct. Okay, first we'll identify what were transferred to the next department. Okay, we've got 92,000 were transferred with regard to material component, and if we transfer it to the next department, it's also complete as to conversion, so that is also equal to 92,000. Okay, then we need to consider what was the ending work in process. Okay, and as to materials, I believe we had 14,000 units, 75%, conversion cost 50% complete. So we'll indent here and we'll say materials was equal to, actually I got a bad character there. So we have 14,000 units that were 75% complete. So that comes out to be 10,500. And with conversion costs, instead of it being 75%, it was only 50% complete. Okay, so we come up with a little bit different numbers, and from there we can calculate the equivalent units of production. So if I sum this, it's not summing it correctly. We want to sum this from F4 to F6. So I get 102.5 and 99,000. Okay, and that really is the answer to number 1. So let me just put a 1 in here. I always do that wrong. Sorry for that pop-up that just came up. 1. There we go. So that's part 1. I'll bold those because that's the answer. Okay, part 2 asks, let's take a look and see what part 2 of the requirement says. To the left of my mouse it says, what were the cost per equivalent units for the month? The beginning inventory consisted of the following costs. Materials were 5,900, conversion costs were 10,500. The cost added during the month consisted of materials of 194,200 and conversion cost of 237. Okay, so now we're going to go through the same kind of calculation. First we had the cost of beginning WIP. I'm abbreviating here. and they gave us was 5,900 and 10,500. Now, those were in units. These were in dollars, so let's label those. That's the peso, designated by the dollar sign. Then cost added during the period, and that was given, we just read it, 194, 200, and 237. So the total cost to account for, we'll just sum, and you'll see that this time those summations worked correctly. It's 200, 100, 200,000, 100, and 247, 500. So if we then are to calculate the equivalent units, we would take the 200,000 and divide it by the equivalent units of production from above. And this time we need to bring this to dollar and cents. And we can copy that in, and we come up with the cost per equivalent a unit. Actually, I don't want to... The equivalent unit production is already given, so I'm going to call this simply the cost per equivalent unit. Okay, and that answer there, I'll bold that because that's the answer to part 2. On part 3, I keep doing that the wrong way, we need to figure out what was the total. Well, let's read what number 3 says. How many of the units transferred to the next department were started and completed during the month? Okay, well, we know the total units transferred was equal to the 92,000, right? We can just do this in one column. And if we subtract out the units in beginning inventory, and I'll abbreviate that, we can come up with what was units started and completed. And the beginning inventory amount, I believe, was 6,000. Let's figure out where it gave that information. Yeah, there's our 6,000 to the left of the mouse right there. So we drop in 6,000. We do our little subtraction, and we're able to calculate the units started and completed during the month of May. Okay? Now, 4 I'll just answer instead of writing it out here. I'll just provide the answer verbally. The manager of the mixing department, anxious to make a good impression on the new owner, stated, materials prices jumped from about $1.10 per unit in April to $2 per unit in May. But due to good cost control, I was able to hold our material cost to less than $2 per unit for the month. Okay, so should he be rewarded? Well, the answer is no. The manager should not be rewarded for good cost control. The mixing department's material cost for May is due to the fact that low costs of the prior month were averaged with May's higher costs. So, now that's a major criticism of the weighted average method. The cost computed for product costing purposes shouldn't be used to evaluate cost control or measure performance for the current period, because we get an averaging effect, if you will. And that takes care of this problem. Thanks, everyone.